Is niche perfumery dead? Let's find out. Hi everyone, I'm Jolima and this is my channel Scented Moments, where we discuss everything about fragrances. So in this video we will be diving deep into the evolving world of niche perfumery. Niche fragrances have always been celebrated for their artistry, craftsmanship, uniqueness, exclusivity, high-end ingredients, and the question is that still the case? So we'll be discussing like the evolving world, like how the niche perfumery has changed over the last decade until now, and also why it's getting harder to distinguish niche fragrances from designer and luxury designer fragrances. And in the end, we'll conclude if indeed niche fragrances are dead or not. If there's still hope. Well, let's get started. So first of all, what is niche? What defines a fragrance being niche? Well, traditionally, a niche fragrance or a fragrance is niche when the brand that makes that fragrance just dedicates their business to making fragrances, and they are viewed as high quality fragrances, amazing ingredients, very unique composition, great storytelling, amazing craftsmanship, exclusive, and all of that. So that for me, it's what makes a fragrance being niche. It's dedicated towards a niche audience. Now, over the last decades, especially in the 2010s, niche perfumery really had a boom where tons of niche brands emerged. And with that, whilst we have a lot of variety nowadays, many great fragrances to explore, or maybe not so great, but definitely we have a lot of variety. And whilst that is great to a certain extent, and that brought some unique and innovation aspects, but that also blurred the line of what constitutes niche and also designer. And the reason is because nowadays, a lot of popular niche brands like Frederic Malle, like Le Labo, Acqua di Parma, Maison Francis Kurkdjian, they are all part of these big conglomerate corporations like LVMH, Estée Lauder, Puig. And so what was once an independent niche brand, now they are part of these corporate families, which in one way, in one hand, is great because it gives them access to more ingredients, more marketing, and so they have budget for all of that. But at the same time, there's no free lunches. That comes with a cost, meaning that these brands need to cater to a broader audience, which will then make many of their new releases being more appealing. And what made them great, what made them unique when they first emerged, now they are being not so great. And it's happening nowadays with Frederic Malle. Actually, Frederic Malle, the founder, Frederic Malle, he just left his own brand during the summertime of this year. Like I think it was between May and June of this year. Frederic Malle is owned by Estée Lauder. And that happened with all other niche brands that we learn to appreciate and love. All of the founders have left their own brands, and they are now run just by the corporates, just by the major corporate that owns the brands. And so there's always that paradox. And now I'm not saying that these brands that now are owned by these big conglomerates, they cannot produce amazing fragrances. They still can, but that will be more the exception than the rule, because again, they need to sell, then they need to cater to a broader audience, and so what made them unique ones now will not be the case. And that is happening nowadays with some of our favorite brands. Like I said before, I think this year, for example, it was a terrible year for Frederic Malle. I'm not a fan of Acne Studios. I think that is just a very harsh, piercing, cleaning detergent, type of smell that it's so piercing, so harsh, that it's not appealing, and it doesn't smell like Frederic Malle. Frederic Malle for me is a great blend of, in one hand they have this French tradition with a lot of their more regular releases, and then they have this more Middle Eastern style of fragrances with desert gems that it's done exceptionally well, some of the best in their genre. And so Frederic Malle was, for me, it's a reference in terms of quality, craftsmanship, uniqueness. And nowadays, and definitely not this year, with again Acne Studios and then Hope from the Desert Gems, which is basically a more mass appealing version of Promise, which is very disappointing at a high price tag. And talking about price, there's another issue that we really need to discuss here, which is the increase in pricing of all of fragrances in general, not just niche, but in general. However, because we are just focusing on niche, we will just stay on the niche side of things. But in the end, the pricing in niche fragrances is extremely high, and especially considering the quality and the unique part. More often than not, what we will see is that the brands, they make all the efforts to a fantastic presentation, bottle, box, everything, marketing, but then what it really matters is the scent inside. And when we try them and smell them, it's like, well, just that, basically. So it seems like these brands want us over a very fancy packaging, when in the end the content is not there. And I think that's a huge problem that we're facing nowadays. The fragrances that are being released do not match the price, both in terms of uniqueness and quality. And also another thing is that we have so many brands currently that are still popping up, and that I will consider that there is a market saturation. At least for me, there is definitely a market saturation. And maybe not, maybe there isn't, and maybe there's still many things to explore. But what I mean by that is that there are so many fragrances that are appearing that I don't even know where they came from, but then they are just capitalizing on very successful fragrance DNAs. Like, it seems like every new brand needs to have their Baccarat Rouge DNA, their Ventus, their Ganymede, and their Sauvage, their like blue fragrance. They need to have an oud fragrance. And then there's no uniqueness. There is no personality. It's just a fragrance brand that was created to make a quick buck, and that's it. And it's what I see the most. And to be honest, it's what I saw this year at Essence. So many brands that were very new, like founded like a year or a couple of years ago, and already with 10 fragrances to show, 5 or even more. And in the end, I'm like, what's your purpose? What's your history? Why you were founded? And in the end, when you will smell them, some of them have great presentation, others not so much, but the scent in the end, it's very poor quality, very bland, and everything like smelling of the same. But then what is the most hilarious part is that they are charging as much as a Frederic Malle would charge, or a Xerjoff, or a Roja. Well, Roja, it's in the league in its own in terms of pricing, but still. So these brands that you never heard of, they are also targeting to that audience, and they want to convey a sense of luxury and exclusivity, when in the end, when you smell them, no, it's just more of the same. So this just to say that even for more favorite brands, like for me, Amouage, Frederic Malle, Xerjoff, I mean, I love those brands. But the fact is that I also recognize that the price doesn't always match the quality and the uniqueness. I don't love all fragrances from Amouage. I don't love all fragrances from Frederic Malle or Xerjoff, because one, taste is different, and also because to my nose, the fragrance don't justify the price, and that's a problem that we are currently facing. And although I mention a lot of and always talk about niche fragrances and talk about the fragrances that I'm enjoying currently, but I'm also aware that not everyone is able or even willing to spend big money on a fragrance like a 200, 300 euros on a perfume, despite how amazing it might smell. But in the end, it all comes at a cost, and maybe that cost doesn't justify the quality and the uniqueness of that fragrance. For me it does, for you might not, and again, this is all subjective, but the fact is that the pricing is definitely an issue that you are facing, and I hope that there is a correction in the market and sometime soon, because it's starting to be a bit unsustainable. And another issue that we are currently facing is that with all of this, we tend to generalize and say, well, in the end, it's easier to say that niche fragrances and niche perfumery in general is that, because of all of these issues, the price doesn't match the quality, the brands that were once unique and amazing and great aren't anymore, or aren't as great as they once were. There's so many new brands coming up which don't bring and don't add anything new to the table, and so it's just easier then to say, well, niche perfumery is that. However, there's still brands that are worth searching and worth exploring, and there are still many independent niche brands that are doing their own thing and they stick true to their nature. For example, Ramon Monegal, which I talk about a lot. It's a brand from Barcelona, Spain, and Ramon Monegal, he is the Parfumeur of his own brand, of course, and he has a long history in perfumery. Not just him, but his whole family. He comes from a family of perfumeurs. I think he's like the third generation already, third or fourth. And so we have brands like that, Ramon Monegal. We have also Les Indémodables, which I talk about a lot. I mean, they have high quality ingredients. And again, they can be a bit pricey, but it's that rare occasion, that rare case for me that really matches the price, matches the quality. Now, the uniqueness can be debatable, but in terms of quality, I think it's undeniable. So we have Les Indémodables, we have Rania J, we have Rubini, so many, Naomi Goodsir, Francesca Bianchi, so many fantastic niche independent brands that are out there. And also, talking about Francesca Bianchi, the fact that the niche market kind of became a bit saturated, this led to the boom, a new boom of artisanal indie brands. Usually these brands are described as a one-person's brand that although they don't have like a proper formal official perfume training, but they still have the knowledge and they have skills enough to create perfumes, and they have access to great materials that maybe even most of the conglomerates cannot access, and so they are still able to create unique artistic pieces. And this is the case of Francesca Bianchi, and this is also the case of Baruti, the case also of Papillon Artisan Perfumes. And so we have a lot of now of this indie industry that is appearing and being more and more famous and popular, because again, the niche market it's a bit saturated. And of course, the main reference in indie perfumery is Andy Tauer from Switzerland. He started his own perfume brand in the beginning of the 2000s and still going, creating amazing many fragrances nowadays. And so we still have many great options out there. We just need to search a bit deeper. And so in the end, for me, answering the question of niche perfumery is actually that for me it's a yes and no type of answer. I mean, yes, in a way that maybe our favorite niche brands and popular niche brands are not as good as they once were. And so these brands now, they are releasing more mass appealing releases, which is also part of it. I mean, not every fragrance needs to be unique and a work of art, but at the same time, it's not good to see the brand that you once loved and still do, but they are not true anymore to their core, to the reasons why they were founded in the first place. And so in that part, in terms of big niche brands, maybe it's kind of that, with some maybe big releases here and there. But at the same time, my answer is no, niche perfumery is not that, because you still have niche, amazing independent niche brands out there. So what are your thoughts? In your opinion, is niche perfumery that or not? Is there still hope? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, if you find value in this video, hit the like button, subscribe, check out all the other fragrance content that I have available, and see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Ciao.